Today on AI Applied, we're talking Meta, and we are talking about the AI talent wars. But Jaeden, something we haven't seen very much of from one of the big players here is that Meta seems to be implementing a hiring freeze. So, what does that mean after this unbelievably aggressive push? And I've seen Jaeden talking about this kind of like all over the internet. So, I wanted to get his thoughts on this. But listen, Meta has a phenomenal product. They're all about building AI. So is Gemini. So is Claude. So is OpenAI. Everybody else is too. And what I want to say, sort of just kicking this off too, is that what I spend so much money on, ungodly amounts of money on, is all my subscriptions. Jaeden Schaefer with AIbox.ai has somehow magically solved this problem for $19 a month. You get access to all the models. Again, never quite sure how he does it. I don't want to kind of like see how the sausage is made because I don't care. But it's an unbelievable technique that way you can just like open this up, AIbox.ai, $19 a month, and you get access to all the models. And you do something that I love to do. It's my favorite thing to do, which is compare answers. I put something in Gemini, then I put it in ChatGPT, I put it in Claude, I see who has the best answers. And on AI Box, it's amazing because you can just compare them side by side, open a bunch of browsers, have it do it right inside that same window. It's unbelievable. AIbox.ai. We owe you a great deal of thanks on this, Jaeden. But Jaeden, on this Meta story, why are they contracting? I thought Zuckerberg was trying to offer billion-dollar contracts here.
Yeah, so I think this is pretty funny. We know that basically, I think this comes down to money. Meta is spending eye-watering amounts of money, and they're spending in every direction. There's a report from BBC just a few days ago that said Meta is going to spend hundreds of billions to build AI data centers. So now hundreds of billions are going out for data centers, and then we have them turning around and they're spending billions and billions. We had someone got offered 1.4 billion. We don't know who it was. Some people are rumoring that it was basically like the OG, the OpenAI OGs. So like Ilya Sutskever and like those guys were getting kind of these like billion-dollar offers to come and join Meta AI. And basically, they've spent so much money. They just went on a hiring spree where they hired 50 top AI researchers from all of the labs. Right, they're pulling them from Google, from XAI, from OpenAI. Like no one was spared in this hiring spree.
Yep.
And they spent so much money. It seems that now they are putting a freeze on it. And there is I think there's some interesting drama because some people inside of Meta seem kind of defensive about this. I'll get into that in a second. But basically, they hired all of these people, and right in the wake of that, after they did all this hiring, there's this freeze that went into effect last week. Right after they basically reorganized their superintelligence lab. So they reorganized it, they split it up. They have the 4 different groups, TBD Labs, which is run by Scale AI's Alexander Wang. He's leading that. It seems like he's kind of like the head of Meta AI right now, which I don't really know what happened to Yann LeCun. It felt like maybe Zuckerberg got mad at him because Meta kind of slipped behind.
He runs research still, right? What they all say is that he's still doing the deep thinking part.
Right. So I think they kind of split it up a little bit, and then Yann's over there. So they have 3 other groups. Yeah. Research, product, and integration. And I think at the end of the day, this makes sense, right? Like it's growing. You need different departments. And Yann, I think, is really great at the research. And maybe he was less like the big bull on pushing the whole thing. So yes. Yeah. So I think this is good. And so they have these 4 different these 4 different areas. And after they basically reorganized, they're like, okay, hiring freeze. And so they were asked about it. And in response, they said this was a basic organizational planning after bringing people on board and undertaking yearly budgeting and planning exercises. So this is Meta being like, I think the yearly budgeting and planning exercises is pretty much, we're broke. We ran out of money. We spent billions. We're just going to take a breather for a second.
It's amazing. So I don't know. I kind of have 2 thoughts on this. I mean, so the first thought is, and I can understand why they're getting defensive about this. And Jaeden, sometime you and I have to do a podcast on the other defensive thing, which is when people, whether people can say that they've used AI for something or not. I think that conversation's so interesting to say, what people are sort of like ashamed to say it or they don't want to admit it, even though you should be using AI for this stuff. But anyway, on this particular thing, an AI hiring free or any hiring freeze absolutely sends a signal of a company in some kind of distress. It could be, minor or anything like that, but you never hear, oh, this company's killing it. They're going on a hiring freeze, right? However, what they're talking about is maybe Meta may be sort of like a victim of their own kind of aggressive tactics. Because, like, if you think about it, right, like, let's say you're building, Disney World or something like that. At some point, construction has to come to a stop. It's like, oh, Disney World has stopped expanding. It's like, yeah, man, because, or Disneyland, because they ran out of room or something, right? Like, at some point, you have to take, what you've got and kind of start using it. And Meta went so, like, if you look at charts, like, the spike in what they spend is so astronomically out, sort of stripping everybody else, that it makes, what else were they going to do except do a hiring freeze? So I'm not even sure that calling it a hiring freeze is completely fair to Meta. It feels like what they're saying is, listen, we now have everybody in place. Now
Yeah.
it's time to work. It's not like we need more people. What we need is to actually produce a product. So it almost feels like a capex, like a capital, sort of cost, where they're actually building something and now they're using it. Or I don't know. Am I seeing that wrong, or am I being too generous here?
No, actually, I mean, however you want to view it, like, oh, they spent too much. Now they have a hiring freeze. Like, they're broke. Okay, they're not broke. They just spent more money than anybody else. They have unlimited money, and at some point, you got to stop spending the money if you got everything you wanted. Like, why do you need to keep spending money if you got the team? So I think you're spot on with that point. However, it does feel like it touched a bit of a chord with people at Meta. Alexander Wang tweeted yesterday, and he said, "We are truly only investing more and more into Meta Superintelligence Labs as a company. Any reporting to the contrary of that is clearly mistaken." So it's kind of funny, because I know people like get into this like whole battle of like, oh, Meta has money, oh, they don't have money, oh, they don't have money because they spent it poorly. But just because they like might not have more of a budget for something doesn't mean they spent what they had poorly. Maybe they have everyone they need. The comments on this post also are hilarious. I mean, there's people making fun of Yan LeCun, saying that he's going to be getting coffee for Alexander Wang now, blah, blah, blah. One thing I did think was pretty funny, someone said, Meta spends billions to recruit you, but you keep the Scale AI banner on Twitter. Savage. Basically, Alexander, who just got hired, he still had his like banner from his last company, Scale AI, even after he got hired here. If you go click on his profile now, he has, I think he just removed it. He has no banner now because I guess he didn't want controversy, which I thought was hilarious. Yeah, I think maybe it struck a chord with some people at Meta, but at the end of the day, they've spent a lot of money, and I think that they're going to end up on top for basically investing in people. I think there was no other way that they were going to catch up to some of these other big players. It seems like OpenAI obviously ran away with things. Anthropic has a really good groove. Elon Musk, I guess, is really good at recruiting people because of his background. So that, I think, XAI. Google obviously is a gargantuan company. But beyond kind of this handful of companies that have been able to put together these rockstar teams, everyone else seems to be really struggling to keep up. It's pretty hard to keep up with some of these big players. And so I think Meta really had to do this if they wanted to not get cut out of the race. And Zuckerberg does not seem like one who likes to lose.
But that's exactly the point, right? Zuckerberg does not like to lose. Zuckerberg was trying to create the future with meta, like the metaverse, right, until ChatGPT sort of came along. And I think Zuckerberg really wants to be the future. I think there's a lot of really legitimate questions around, like, what is Meta doing? Like, why do they need to create super intelligence? It really seems, if it's been any indication about sort of like how this has gone so far, that when we have super intelligence, it's not going to be limited to one product. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's probably going to, unless somebody figures out a wildly different way. Now that's why Ilya Sutskever can raise whatever, I don't know what is, he raised $2 billion right out of the gate without even saying with the name of a company, basically. Same with Mira Murati. And I think, but at least with Sutskever, who actually has a background in super intelligence and also are trying to create super intelligence and also safe super intelligence, which is, I believe, the name of his company. You can see sort of like maybe they'll stumble on something else. In the same way, AI was kind of growing pretty linearly until the reasoning models came along, and it's like, oh, here's a different path. So maybe it's that. Maybe he's trying to figure out that. But it really does seem, and I'm not trying to minimize this, but it really does seem like Zuckerberg is trying to just create the future. And I'm just not, and by the way, and if he is, this is the way to get in the game, right? You sort of like create this, but it doesn't seem like he's trying to really monetize it in any way.
Right.
Sorry, I don't mean that's too bold a statement. There's not a clear, to me, not a clear monetization strategy that Meta has. Even Grok, who clearly doesn't care about whether, like, it goes off the rails, because he's not trying to sell to enterprises, and enterprises won't buy a model like Grok. but he's going to put it into his Tesla's robots and rocket ships to Mars. So I can see Elon's strategy too. Zuckerberg's, I don't know. Am I being too simplistic here? Like, it just feels like he just wants to create the future.
I think that there is a clear monetization method for Zuckerberg, and I think that he's playing a bit of a long game of freemium model. Basically, he doesn't want to get left behind, but I think he realizes how, like, OpenAI with 700 million weekly active users using ChatGPT, I think he realizes the value of, if he could own that piece of real estate, basically that asset, if he could take it over with Meta AI, he could embed AI into the, or ads into the chat the same way he's made his money off of all of his other platforms. So I actually think there's an argument to be made that this could be a massive cash cow if you could get it right. But it is a winner takes all. We have OpenAI with like 80% or 85% of the entire AI chat market right now. And so it's really hard to compete. And if you get, if you're not basically as good as the best, no one's going to use you. So I think he knows that he's got a lot of work to do to catch up. He's got the distribution, but I think if he wanted to, like basically, if Meta had invented ChatGPT and he was sitting on 700 million weekly active users right now on this tool, I guarantee there'd be a free model with ads embedded in it. You could pay $20. I don't even know if you do the pay one. Maybe he just forced you to have ads, which would be annoying. But I think that you could make like a pretty insane amount of money by putting ads in this. I've talked to some startups, or seen some startups that basically this is like what they do. If you have some sort of AI chat tool, they'll put ads into your like chat, and like that's kind of like what they do. So I think it's interesting, and I think that I think Zuckerberg sees this as something that you could spend money on. But to your point, they're spending a lot, and I think the big question they have to be asking themselves right now is like the ROI for investors. What's that going to look like? They're paying a lot of stock-based compensation to these researchers, and it's not small. It's billions of dollars. So billions of dollars in stock compensation. Should be interesting to see what that actually does on the stock price. Now, before anyone goes and I guess criticizes Meta and Zuckerberg for basically what he's done on his, I guess in like the stock market, you can compare him to other companies. Meta stock has pretty much always grown. If you look at it over time, it dropped at $38 a share, and we're now at $750 a share. You can't criticize Zuckerberg too much on his stock market performance. So seems like he might be able to pull this off in a big way.
But I just can't tell if this is in spite of the spending. In the same way, like Apple, stock spiked, not because nobody cares about AI, but because they sold so many iPhones because of tariffs. So like, I just don't know where this is going. I don't know. Jaeden, this is going to be an ongoing conversation. Listen, if you have enjoyed this podcast, or you know what, even if you don't, even if you hated it, just, you love me and Jaeden. We are good people. We're family men. We care deeply about the planet and its people. Leave us a rating and review. It's going to make us so happy. You're going to have Jaeden just like doing backflips in his backyard.
Absolutely true.
We're so grateful for you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Leave a rating and review if you don't mind, and we will see you next time.